Hey YouTube, so I'm going to start building my race short course truck, the SCT410.3. As I said in my first unboxing video, I am going to build this to the team spec and a little bit more. Mainly the differences between the team spec and what I'm building is geared towards durability. So I don't know that I'm going to go 100% in order of the manual, and I'm not sure that I'm going to show every little step in the manual in detail. But I will show all of the things that I do that deviate from the manual, and I'm going to start with the wheels and tires. So I was originally going to build this using ProLine wheels and tires, and the wheels that we use from ProLine are the F11 short course wheels. I was going to use the pinpoint tires that you see here, and I was going to use the wedges on the front. What we found on the turf track is that pin tires all the way around is too much grip and you traction roll a fair amount. So part of the reason why I thought I would go with this combination is that I already had a set of pinpoints mounted up on a set of F11s because as I may have mentioned in the last video, my son runs a TLR S10 SCTE1.0 fairly modified, and we had set the pins all the way around on his truck. So I figured, well, I'll save some money and I'll use these up. I bought a set of wheels and I ordered a set of ProLine wedges for the front, and they're on back order, and they've been on back order for a long time. So this is a fine choice if you want to build your truck up for a turf track. These are the part numbers. You'd need to buy 2 packages, obviously, of the wheels, and then a package of each tire. But I went ahead and used I had a full set of the AKA wheels, which I personally prefer. I like the looks of them the best of all of the short course wheels that are on the market. And I was able to order direct from J Concepts a pair of swaggers for the front and pin downs for the rear. Essentially, they're the same tire setup. There are some minor differences in the design. What I found is the pin downs have slightly smaller pins than the ProLine have, and I can't compare the fronts because we don't have the ProLine fronts. So my son is running the swaggers on his low C and the ProLine pins in the rear on his truck, and they seem to work just fine. So in order to get the best wheel tire mount, it's really important to follow some steps, and I think that sometimes mounting the tires is an overlooked detail in building up a race truck. If the wheels and the tires are not mounted and mated and glued exactly perfectly, you'll end up with little bubbles and little bumps and stuff that put the tire out of round and put it out of balance, and when you're racing, that's a big problem. So one of the first things you want to do is get yourself a cotton ball, get yourself some rubbing alcohol, wet the not wet, don't make it drip, but put an amount of the alcohol on the cotton ball and then run it around the ridge here, the bead of the wheel, both the outside and the backside bead, cleaning up any oil or grease left over from manufacturing. And as you can see, there's a little bit of black that's left over here. Do the same thing on the tires. Run that cotton ball all around the wheels. Let them dry before you do anything else. So when you take the wheels out of the package, you're going to have a tire foam, now depending on the manufacturer. So the J Concepts is this gray cell. ProLine's, I believe, is a blue cell. This is fairly basic. It's just, a tube of foam that's been cut into widths. The ProLine jobbers are a little bit nicer foams. They generally have some ridges and stuff. So one of the things that I noticed about the wedge front tires is they have a very different sidewall. It's highly reinforced. on my buggy, we actually don't use foams at all on the front, but it still has this heavily reinforced sidewall on the outside of the tire, which is kind of different from any of the tires that I've used before. So tire glue. There's a lot of different CA cements out there. I've tried a number of them. Typically I like the AKA, not because the CA glue that's inside the bottle is any different than any of the others, although I did find the much more stuff to be way too thin. So you might have, if you don't have a favorite now, if you're going to use standard CA cement, I would go with the AK. The reason why is because I like the way they use an application tube. It's a tiny thin, it's really small diameter tube. You cut off about 1/4 of an inch of the length that you get, and then you put it into the tip of the bottle. That allows you to get really into a tiny little crack between the bead of the tire and the wheel, the edge of the wheel where the bead sits. But that stuff dries like this, and what I found, especially with short course, with my buggy it doesn't seem to be much of a problem. The short course tires, much thicker rubber, especially the outside of the tire, the sidewall is very robust, and on the wedge tires with that extra ribbing on the sidewall, it's really robust. So what I found is it's more difficult for that instant bond cement to get the bead really truly set inside the ridge. And then I found this stuff. So this is a slower set CA glue. It's 20 to 45 seconds. It's infused with rubber and carbon, so it's black instead of clear, which doesn't matter. But it doesn't dry hard plasticky the way that the other CA glues that I've tried dries. It dries flexy, which of course gluing rubber is, I think, an advantage. So if you haven't tried this, I don't have any sponsors or anything like that. This is just the stuff that I use. I'd really recommend giving this stuff a try. I picked, I think, mine up on Amazon. So when you're putting your tires and foams together, take your tire foam, squish it like a C, like so, and then stuff it into the tire from the back side where the hole is larger, and you want to feed it around so that it's nice and tucked in, nice and tidy as best as you can. You don't want to have any bumps or creases or anything in the tire foam, because then that will again transfer into an out of balance tire when it's finally completed. So once you put the wheel onto the tire, or into the tire, I guess, what I try to do is keep the tire bead on the inside of the wheel ridge. So all the way around the tire, the wheel ridge is exposed. Now this is probably not the way you want to do this if you're using typical CA glue. You probably would want to set the bead into that ridge and then slowly peel back apart and glue around and set that bead back nearly instantaneously, because that other glue dries so quickly, which is one of the reasons why that AKA bottle is so nice. But with this Bob Smith Industries glue, you have plenty of time to run a bead of cement all around the ridge of the wheel. And you can see here, it's not glob, it's not runny, it's just enough to create a line that's maybe half the width of that ridge where the bead sets in. And then once you get the entire circumference of the wheel with a bead of the glue, then you pop the wheel into that ridge and set it perfectly. So as you can see, this is how it should look. Now on these front wedge tires, you can see there's even extra reinforcement ridging here on the tire on the inside of the bead. So they're adding extra rigidity on the sidewalls of these wedge tires. So you can see how this bead of the tire aligns perfectly with this ridge on the wheel. Once you get it exactly perfect all the way around, I give it a little squish like this. It does a couple of things. One, it really ensures that the tire bead is set in that ridge. Also, it helps push the glue around on the inside so that it's nice and even and smooth, so that you don't have bubbles. So I give it a squeeze like this all the way around, making sure that the bead is perfectly set, which again this slower curing glue allows you to do, and then I drop a rubber band over top. Now as you can see, this is one of the AKA rubber bands that comes with the AKA tire gluing kit, right? You don't need to use this. There's any rubber band will probably work. The nice thick jobbies like this is really what you need, but I find that these are the proper diameter. They apply the proper tension to the wheel in the tire so that it doesn't collapse the tire, it doesn't deform the wheel. So this is what I use. Once you get them all glued up, this is kind of what it's going to end up looking like, right? So we've got the Cyclone wheels, we've got the wedges here. I tipped one up on the side so you can see what the tread pattern looks like, and then these are the pin downs with the smaller pins than what the AKA pinpoints look like, and this is what it looks like. And then these, just a pretty shot of the tires propped up along with the card that comes with the tires when you buy them, so you can see what it is that I bought. So that's wheels and tires. With the Bob Smith Industries cement, I typically it says 20 to 45 seconds. I generally let them sit for an hour or more just to let them really fully cure and hard. And I'll do one side, let it cure and hard, flip it over, remove the rubber band, flip it over, and then do the other side. So for me to really properly do tires, if I'm not at the pit bench because a tire blew out, which I always try to have a spare set so I don't have to do this, trying to re-glue them really fast and only letting it sit for a minute or two. Let them sit for an hour or more if you can before you flip them over to do the next side. This should result, if you follow these instructions, this should result in a very well balanced, smooth running tire that will hold firm and not blow out on you at the track. So I hope you find this video helpful. I'm working on building the diffs right now. I'm really hopeful that I'll be able to get that video produced and edited and uploaded as well today. So maybe look out for a second video for today.